All right, welcome to Table Talk here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, 12 years strong. Got a great discussion coming your way this week as we embark on a postmortem with regard to the Philadelphia Phillies, and we're doing it with our good buddy, Jon Jansen from Fox Sports Phillies, The Gambler. We love talking to him about the world of Philly sports when he's able to join us. Jon, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yes, you can see I'm sitting on the floor. I got a blanket on. I'm like ready. This is a tough conversations we're about to have.
Yes.
So I had to make sure I was like as comfortable as I could possibly be as we do.
You got to be comfy for this type of conversation.
I'm in PJs right now. I have a fall candle lit. I
love it.
I'm ready for this.
Vibes going. I genuinely was thinking, for those watching on YouTube right now, you can see I'm wearing a Phillies shirt. I'm like, because I usually like whatever team we're talking about, I'm usually wearing some sort of apparel from them. And I'm like, I just don't want to put on the Phillies shirt, but I'm like, I'm going to do it just because I continue to do it here when we're doing video. There you go.
I put on the winning team, the team that likes to win around here, the Philadelphia
Exactly.
Union.
We talked about him on the show this past week, winning the Supporters Shield. Very nice. Very nice. I love the hat, dude. Looks nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
Looks very nice. Well, we got to get into the Phillies here. We got to get. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because like I'm still just so downtrodden, and it's not even how it ended. Sure, Orion Kerkering completely bungled the end of that last game of the season in the NLDS against the Dodgers. But like the real story, I think, for a lot of us, I mean, myself, I'm right there, is the fact that Trea Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, from an offensive perspective, just didn't do anything offensively for this team when the team absolutely needed them. They were cold at the plate at the worst possible time. Sometimes just swinging at junk too, which was so incredibly frustrating given who these guys are and the talent that they possess, Jon. So I'm wondering, have you been thinking about this narrative as well, as we're now more than a few days removed from that debacle of a series? What have been your thoughts here?
Yeah, and look, there were some good performers in the lineup. It's not to say everybody was terrible, but
right.
I feel like every time a moment presented itself, a moment to do something big, change a game, change a series, they just never could do it. And they did it way too late in game 3. But they could just never do it. So the Orion Kerkering thing, it sucks that he has to be kind of the face of that moment because of what he did. And there was a big spotlight. The throw was really bad. The decision-making was really bad. And he owned it. And I feel bad for him again that he has to be like kind of the face of this image and narrative of the Phillies. But it was everyone. Like it was kind of a capture of what the Phillies were in that postseason. Anytime there was a chance to make a big play, they couldn't do it. And that's something that has been happening since last season in the postseason. It happened again this year. And so a team that went to the World Series because of really timely hits, timely home runs, just isn't getting that anymore in the postseason. Yeah. So I think, look, a lot of that has to go to Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trea Turner, because they're making the most money. To me, and I know Schwarber had a couple of home runs, and he had that one game that was really good, but he was the best player they've had all season, and he's been a top 3 to 4 hitter in baseball. They needed a lot more from him than just one game.
Absolutely.
And that was really disappointing to see him play like that.
Because he wasn't just a home run hitter during this season, too. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? He was not just hitting all those home runs. I mean, it was a fantastic aspect of the season, but I mean, how many singles did he have this season? I mean, he had a decent amount of them,
got
just
on base
the ball in play.
His OPS was very high. Yes. Again, it was top 4 OPS in all of baseball. So just to see that guy kind of not give you that same production in the postseason, like, Bryce Harper, I get, because he's making $300 million. He's the face of the organization, that you expect more of him. And I think it's fair to criticize him for the lack of play or lack of performance at the plate in that series. Yeah. But he was dealing with injuries. He wasn't the same Bryce Harper. This was kind of a down year for him. This was Kyle Schwarber, and Kyle Schwarber had to lead the way. The same Bryce Harper had an amazing year heading into the postseason for the World Series run, and Bryce Harper played amazing. He was the exact type of player that they needed. They needed Kyle Schwarber to be more, and it was really disappointing that he just kind of fell short in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and I hate the expectations game that we all played throughout the season, and especially during September too, when you're like, wow, they are in a really good position. But with that being said, the expectations game. We're already looking towards 2026 here. We're wondering what this team is going to look like moving forward. We're all talking about it right now. I mean, they ran it back this past season, and yes, there were some additions like Max Kepler, Harrison Bader before the trade deadline who were brought in. I'm not sure if they can run it back again next season. I mean, we're going to certainly get into like some of the guys who may be here, maybe not here and stuff, but with some of the guys who have really large contracts too. There's the rumors of, oh, might this guy get traded? Kyle Schwarber, we're certainly going to talk about him and that contract as well. I mean, let's dive into it. What are your thoughts here, Jon, about, do they quote run it back, or are things going to look dramatically different?
Yeah, I think it is. And I know as we're talking about this now, Rob Thompson is going to come back. That has already been announced.
Yep.
So like that already seems like, oh, here we go again. They're going to do the same thing. We're all at the same manager. But I think Rob Thompson coming back doesn't signal any of that at all. I think they should have moved on, and that has nothing to do with Rob. It's just like, okay, we tried it. We got to move on and do something. But Rob has been very successful, so I get they want to stick with a successful manager. But they are going to shake things up. I think it's already been alluded to. Ruben Amaro Jr. kind of alluded to possibly something happening on WIP this weekend. So there's a big contract is going to be moved, most likely. It is going to look vastly different than it is now. I think the one guy you maybe re-sign back is JT Realmuto, and I think people want to, but also you got to think about you're re-signing a 34-year-old catcher.
Yeah.
So that there's just, and I don't know the exact moves that are going to be made, but I know it's going to be massive. Like this lineup can't come back the same way it was. I think there are going to be big contracts moved. Bryce Harper is the only one I think that really is safe. Everything else is kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Trea Turner. I was going to ask about Trea Turner because I mean, I feel like with that contract that he signed, he's going to be here for like another 30 years or something like that, and I don't know, do you move on from that type of, not only a contract, but the type of player he is, and he had a fantastic season here, but I mean, it took a few years for him to have that fantastic season here in 2025. So I could see him getting moved. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I would be too sad as a Phillies fan to actually see that. It would be disappointing, but I don't know how sad I would be. What do you think?
Yeah, I would not be either. And I think Trea Turner finally put together a good year. I don't think he ever became the player that he was with Los Angeles to the Nationals. So I do feel like they got a worse version of him during this contract. But it's the type of player you have to give that kind of contract to. That's just where contracts are going now. But I think you would need to move on from it. It just didn't seem like it worked all that much, or worked to the degree that it needed to with the amount of money that he's being paid. And again, I just think you really need to shake things up. And that starts with, I think, moving some of the big contracts. And it's not like building from the ground up, but I think, you're going to have to find smarter ways to spend money, and really, I think, try and to space out that money across different areas. The Phillies became very top heavy. So I think Phillies now are kind of looking at this like, look, we got some guys in the farm system. Maybe we can bring up, our farm system's been getting better. Maybe we can space out the contracts a little bit so we can get guys in multiple different positions instead of trying to get, a $300 million guy in one position. And I think a lot of that's going to go into pitching as well. But I think that's likely going to happen. Something big like that, somebody like Trea Turner moving on. And I do think that also means like Kyle Schwarber just had, again, like his career year, and numbers that like usually you pay a guy with those numbers. I don't care if he's just a DH. You pay that guy a lot of money to hit that kind of production. So I just don't. I think it's going to be unrealistic to think that even Kyle Schwarber could come back. So again, I don't know what the changes are going to be. I've looked at some of the free agent guys heading into the free agency for this offseason. Nothing really stood out, but I do know it is going to be a massive shakeup for the line.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned pitching there, and I think from a pitching standpoint, Ranger Suarez likely going to be gone in free agency, especially if they're looking to bring back Kyle Schwarber, if they are at this point. I mean, Ranger Suarez, he's going to get a very nice contract that it's going to be tough for the Phillies to match.
Deserved too. Very
absolutely.
Deserved.
What a season. And what he was like the one guy in the series where you could like be like right there. That's what we needed.
It was also after the one home run. He was fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Look, we're hoping Zach Wheeler is going to be coming back. I mean, that is not a 100% certainty. I mean, there is a high percentage chance that he comes back, but it's not a 100% certainty. I'm wondering if we should be just comfortable with Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Andrew Painter, and even Aaron Nola, given Nola's struggles that he did have this year before he was then injured. Do they concentrate on starting pitching in the offseason at all, John? What do you think?
They have been going after pitching a lot in drafts and kind of trying to bolster that part of their farm system. So like I think eventually you're gonna have to bring up an Andrew Painter and just see what he has. You know, I think you've put enough time and effort into it to owe it to yourself to try and see what these guys are like. But the good thing is with the starting rotation, and yes, Wheeler is a big part of that. You would like to see him back. You would like to see him healthy, but we know he's not part of like the long-term plans. I think he's scheduled to retire after the next season. Or I think he might have another one, but I think it's after next season. So it's not like long-term plans, but I am very happy that the Phillies have such an anchor as an ace with Christopher Sanchez.
Yes.
That guy is under a very good team-friendly contract for a long time. He is by far one of the top pitchers in baseball and really something to build around. Then behind him, like Luzardo, I thought pitched pretty well. In the postseason and throughout the year. Yeah, there were some ups and downs, but I really think he figured something out. And I think that was such a great move to get Luzardo just because of the stuff has always been really good. So I'm happy with some of the pieces there, but I'm happy that they have an anchor to build around. And the thing is, not every starting rotation is going to be like the Phillies were when you had Aaron Nola at his best. We had Zach Wheeler at his best, and you had Ranger Suarez. Like that is tough to get in Major League Baseball.
Right.
But it all starts with the number one guy. And if Wheeler's not going to be it, they have one. So I think that's just a great starting point, at least. Yes, they're going to have to go after it in free agency. They're going to have to go after a lot in free agency. And I think that's why you end up trying to move some big contracts. But I just think it's such a good starting point when you go, Christopher Sanchez is the number one guy. That's such a great place to start.
Absolutely. Again, folks, talking to Jon Jansen from Fox Sports Phillies, the Gambler. And John, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials out there if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me at JJansen34 at _ JJansen34 on Instagram. The JJansen34 is on Twitter. That's where I am mostly at. That's where I'm talking all of my college football randomness and movie randomness.
Oh, yes.
So check me out at JJansen34.
All right. And like and subscribe to the PSC podcast show here. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. Share our podcast, whether it's audio or here on YouTube with your friends and family who are Philly sports fans. And you can also follow us on various social media sites. Just search out the Philadelphia Sports Table. Heck, you can search out my name, Eric's name, Len, not on social media at all. Bless his soul. So that being said, we're going to take a quick break to pay some bills here. We're going to be back in just a bit. We got more Phillies talk, folks. All right, we're back with our good friend Jon Jansen from Fox Sports Phillies, the Gambler. Great conversations about the world of Philly sports with John on a continual basis whenever we're able to have him on. Love talking about the Phils, the Eagles with you. But yeah, with regard to the Phillies, let's continue this conversation because you mentioned JT Realmuto right before the break. I kind of wanted to dive into him a little bit more. I had concerns about him coming into this 2025 season about just where he was in terms of just his arm, what he was going to do in the batter's box and whether or not we would see just any decline from him. And we really didn't see too much a decline other than his power numbers dropping off for a second straight season. However, with that said, I think they kind of still need to re-sign him. You mentioned, yes, he's 34 years old. I mean, how many years might it be? Who knows? But I think when you look at the pitching within this Phillies system right now, and of course they could bring in, I was saying pitching, I'm sorry, catching. You look at the catching within the farm system. I'm not comfortable with it. Might they want to go outside in free agency, try to get another pitcher? I personally don't necessarily think so. You may think differently here, John. So what are your thoughts on JT Realmuto's future here, and if the organization should re-sign him?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good option to re-sign JT Realmuto. Again, the concern is age and playing that much, and if he's going to start being able to last a whole season. Because I think you really have to start thinking about that with a catcher that's 34 years old and that has played so much baseball, and he's been so reliable for them and durable. But that's obviously with age that goes away. So I think you can re-sign him because I don't think it's going to be a lot of money. Nobody is going to throw a ton of money at a 34-year-old catcher. So you could probably get him on a solid deal. What needs to happen, though, is I think you need to spend a little bit more on a backup catcher. Really a reliable guy that can give JT Realmuto some time off, that he can DH maybe at times if needed. But JT's going to have to start taking a lot more games off and just have an understanding of it's a 34-year-old catcher, and he is going to probably not have his best baseball coming up. He's probably not going to be able to finish seasons the way he does. So I think you have to take that into account and take into account that there might be times you were long stretches without JT. But I think the benefits of having him catch a pitching staff, even if it's just like a 2-year contract and you kind of have him as like a placeholder until you find a better option somewhere else. I think it's just best to look at JT that way, that, hey, look, he can anchor the pitching. He's really great with them. Their numbers seem to be a lot better when he's catching because he's so smart, and defensively he still seems really good. So use him kind of as a placeholder while he's still playing productive baseball. Get a good backup catcher to make sure you're not, putting him into the ground too much or running him into the ground too much. And kind of work your way into it that way.
Do you think a 2-3 year contract, maybe 4 tops, probably, right?
Yeah, I would say 2 or 3. Yeah, once you, 34 is already old. Once you, I hate to say old. I'm close to that age.
Exactly.
But for a catcher, that's 35, 36. You just don't see many catchers lasting that long. There are some that have done it, and some catchers that have been really durable throughout baseball through the years, but it's just hard to expect that. So I just think you have to expect what usually happens with a catcher at that age.
All right. Well, moving along here, I do wonder what's going to happen to the bottom of the order. Guys like Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, Alec Bohm. I mean, I could see them possibly all landing in other spots too. I mean, I think Nick Castellanos has almost certainly played his last game in Philly as of us here recording this. How are you seeing the fate of some of these players shaking out this offseason here?
Yeah, the unfortunate part is like, if you're going to have a shakeup, you can't shake up everything. So that's the really part, is like, what part of this team do you bring back? Maybe you bring back the guys like Bohm and Stott who are on friendly deals. Like, it's not hurting you all that much to keep these guys around. I think you would have to, especially Bryson Stott. I don't love his bat, and I think the numbers that he has, he's kind of just a player that he is, and I don't expect his numbers to improve all that much. I think everybody was like, oh, maybe he could be, be competing for the crown of the best average in Major League Baseball. He's just never going to be that player. But he's really great defensively, and again, young still, and not a lot of money. I think you have to keep a player like that. I think you would have to keep even a player like Alec Bohm. Brandon Marsh, you can kind of move on from. The platoon thing is great, but eventually you're just going to have to find a really steady center fielder or a steady outfield piece.
Yes,
he's not. So I would be more willing to move on from him. But that's the tough thing with a shakeup is, I don't love Alec Bohm as a player. It's just I don't love a 6'4", 5 third baseman that has zero power whatsoever. And is more of a slap hitter. That doesn't work in Major League Baseball anymore, so I don't love it. But still can be productive and not killing them in terms of money. And same thing with Bryson Stott. So I think it's two guys that you kind of have to keep around because you just can't. You can't figure out an entire lineup just in one offseason. You're gonna have to keep these.
Well, John, that was very therapeutic going through the Phillies with you here. Seriously, I definitely needed it, buddy. Seriously, it's just been so rough sitting with this over these past few days. But before I let you go, my friend, to close us out here, as we're continuing to watch the playoffs, I'm wondering which team, if you are pulling for. I mean, for me, to be honest with you, it's the Mariners. I mean, they've kind of been my AL team for some time because I just loved Ken Griffey Jr. growing up. Even when I was
that makes sense.
Even in my 20s, I loved Ken Griffey Jr. so much. And I just feel like that guy, for whatever reason, through the steroid era and stuff like that, just never got his due in a way. We all know that he is a great baseball player, but really getting his due.
Yes.
I don't know. And it's made me a Mariners fan. I follow the Mariners, and it's great where they're at right now, in my personal opinion. I'm pulling for them at this point. Is there a team that you're pulling for as we're closing things up here?
Definitely not any National League team. I, for some reason, have never liked the Brewers, but especially the Dodgers. This iteration of the Dodgers, I just can't root for it all. So it would have to be an American League team. For me, selfishly, so I am an East Carolina grad.
Okay.
And there are 2 East Carolina pitchers on the Toronto Blue Jays roster.
Oh, all right.
I'm gonna go with the Blue Jays. Trea Savage, the starting pitcher in Game 2, even though he got rocked at Game 2.
Yeah.
And also I'm a Jeff Hoffman, who was a former Philly, was an East Carolina grad. So
is he really East Carolina? I didn't know he was East Carolina grad.
I was there when he was at East Carolina too. That's
wow.
That's how old he is now. You know, I'm an old guy now.
Oh God.
But yeah, but yes, I will root for that. I'll always root for a Pyre. And look, Toronto's always been, it's a fun team. Like Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a really fun player.
Yeah.
I think that city's a lot of fun for baseball, even though they've beaten the Phillies in a World Series, so we don't like that.
Yes.
But yeah, just I think it's an organization and city that have been with this core kind of waiting for a moment like this, and they're finally having it. So it's exciting to see a team like that.
Yeah. Great discussion, folks. He's Jon Jansen from Fox Sports Phillies, The Gambler. My friend, thank you so much for taking the time. Love the conversation. Again, it was therapeutic for me. Needed to talk about this. I thank you so much. Come back and join us down the road. I would love to have you on the podcast again, my friend.
Absolutely. Would love to. Maybe on better circumstances, better things to talk about. But yeah, I would love to.